What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Classic Octane. I am Taylor. So we are officially starting on the garage reorganization, redo project, whatever we're going to call it. I know a lot of you guys are really interested in the kind of infrastructure side of building motorcycles, so I'm going to bring you guys along the way. My main focus right now is going to be parts storage. So you guys know I have these shelves on this side of the shop that are full of all kinds of parts. It's basically anything that's left over from the bikes that I've built. It's new parts, it's good condition used parts, it's a kind of a mixture of everything. It's somewhat organized right now. I have the bins kind of labeled what they are. We got a set of gauges, we've got, lights and mirrors, we've got body panels, we've got all kinds of stuff. I don't need to have immediate access to these parts. So what I'm gonna do is figure out a more efficient storage solution to put those parts up in my garage attic here. I don't think you guys have ever seen up there. There is a significant amount of parts up there already. Everything is just kind of thrown around and not organized well. So the main focus of this video is going to be cleaning and organizing all of the parts currently in the attic, getting all the parts down here up there so we can free up some real estate down here in the shop. I was able to utilize some of the lights we had left over from when we did the rest of the shop. So this is the layout we're working with up here. This is probably, 10-ish feet wide at the bottom, about 20 feet deep. So there's a ton of real estate up here. It's just completely misused at the moment. A lot of these parts are good usable parts that I just have a hard time getting rid of. So like this box right here is full of CB77 and Honda 305 Dream parts. Those are pretty hard to come by. A lot of OEM stuff. Tons of CB550 and 750 exhausts, fenders. That's like a lot of the OEM wiring and ECU from the LS and the GTO before I did my swap. So it's parts that it may be years before we use them, but it all has value. So I don't know, maybe I'm a hoarder. But what I'd like to do is clear out this middle section so that we can actually kind of walk through here and find stuff more easily, and build some shelving along this right side. So if I can build some shelving across here, all of those storage bins and everything that are stored downstairs right now could be nicely stacked, one on top of the other on the shelves, and would make nice, clean, easy access. It'd only take me 90 seconds to get up here and find something, but it's completely out of sight and out of mind for the rest of the time. First things first, I need to go through all of this stuff and just see if there's anything that my hoarder brain will allow me to get rid of, just so that I'm not storing stuff that's basically garbage. So I'm gonna throw you guys on a time lapse as I kind of go through all this, and then we'll bring you back when it's time to start building some shelves. So after about an hour and a half or so, I have this whole center cleaned out, a lot of garbage thrown away, a lot of the junk on the floor and everything kind of vacuumed up. So we're making some really good progress. What I need to move on to now though is building our shelves. So what I'm gonna do is a very simple design of just basically a 2x4 tying into these 2x4s that are my ceiling rafters. I think the rafters is what it's called, whatever these supports are. It'll be a piece that's roughly 24 inches long. That'll allow me to do a 2-foot by 4-foot plywood shelf, a couple of them all the way down this little row right here. Before you guys mention it in the comments, even though I'm sure some of you still will, I am not going to be putting a significant amount of weight on these shelves. This is like purely just to put lighter containers and stuff on the top for me to be able to stack stuff easily. I'm not going to be storing engines or anything like that up here, so we don't have to worry about adding too much weight or too much of an issue with the structure we have here. So I assure you it'll be just fine. So I'm going to go ahead and get my miter saw and everything set up, start to cut some of these supports, then we can bring them all up here and screw them in. Shelves are in and looking good. So it's 16 feet long, 2 feet wide, and then allows me to have some storage underneath as well. It is tall enough to be able to slide those containers under there. And holy, I don't know if you guys know this, but it is hot in an attic in Texas in August. Not sure why I waited until midsummer to do this project, but it's turning out well. So what I need to do now is a million trips up the ladder with all the parts, and we can start to fill these bins up. start to clear out downstairs. Little progress update. We have all of the bins moved from the front half of the garage up here, somewhat organized. I may go through and do it a little bit better in the future, but this is basically carburetors. All of these bins are all labeled with what they have in them, body panels, brake components, and so on. A little bit further back, we get into wheels, a bunch of OEM seats. Over here is front and rear fenders. Below that is exhaust, and then this side is mostly car parts. This little front section here will probably be for my kind of miscellaneous tools, like my miter saws and stuff like that. Coolers, just kind of random non-car motorcycle related stuff that I don't need to have, quick access to, but obviously don't want down in the shop. So my main goal now is to go to the back half of the shop and figure out anything else that we can put up here. The main goal here is just to get all of the kind of unneeded items or rarely used items out of the main shop and up into storage. So let me dig around and see what else I can find to put up here. So now that everything that is going into the attic is now up there, I need to start to move my kind of heavy, larger items into their new homes. So this back corner is going to completely change. I'm going to get rid of this workbench. I'm just going to disassemble it and kind of keep that wood, and maybe we'll end up kind of repurposing it, building some shelving or something out of it. But what I figured out is I have too many kind of horizontal surfaces in my shop, and they end up just becoming kind of catch-all places. This back workbench has just been kind of piled on with random parts and pieces of the shear and all kinds of stuff for honestly the better part of a year. So I'm not actually using it as a workbench, so it needs to go. So this is going to get disassembled. This one over here, I'm on the fence. In my layout plan, I don't really have a spot for that. I may turn it 90 degrees and put it along this back wall. Once we get the lathe over here, which is what's going to be going in this corner, I'll determine how much space I'll have left, and we'll figure out what to do with that. But my main goal right now is I'm moving on to where to store my small block Chevy and my Muncie 4-speed, as well as my TH350 that were all originally in the Camaro. I think they're going to go under this kind of heavy duty shelf over here. So we'll be able to slide that in under there now. I do have a couple of spare engines, CB550, two 750s, and a CX500. I'll use my engine hoist to put those up on a higher shelf. These shelves are supposed to be able to hold well over 1,000 pounds a piece. All of those together probably weigh 500 pounds. So we should be good to go. I'm just gonna need to obviously use my engine hoist because I'm not a human forklift. I can't quite pick those 750 engines up by myself. It's now the next morning, and I'd like to work on getting the lathe in its final resting position. So what I need to do is get the car, all the bikes, the lifts, everything kind of in this front corner of the garage over here, so I can have a nice clean path to roll the lathe all the way back here. And then I'm gonna have to do probably like a 20-point turn to get this thing as far into that corner, kind of tucked up nice, going this direction, but shouldn't be too terrible. Let's get all this junk out of the way. Got the lathe moved back there. I did take off the tracer attachment that came with the lathe just because it's very bulky. I don't plan to use it anytime soon. So I'll probably just put that in storage for now. So I think this is going to be a really great place for it. The only thing that technically, could be better is if this was actually on this wall over here, so that if I did have some long piece of material that was actually going all the way through the spindle bore there, it's not going to run into the wall. But right now I could run something that's probably 36 inches long. Once the chuck is on here, it would be like out to here. So I could put something like probably 36 inches before it would touch the wall. The odds of me doing anything like that are so slim that I'm not too worried about it. I'm just gonna keep it in the position it is. So I think it looks pretty good back here. And I am so ready to get that thing up and running. So I figured now would be a good time for me to show you guys this. I went a little bit crazy and I made a 1/24 scale model of the shop so that I could kind of figure out all the positioning of everything. So here's kind of what we're looking at. So we are basically standing right here right now. So we have these two gray cabinets right there, the heavy duty shelves. I just moved the lathe to this back corner. Mill staying where it is and the do-all staying where it is. I want to move this entire toolbox workbench setup to this wall, just because I think the flow is going to work a little bit better. The two motorcycle lifts are actually going to be diagonal up against this wall over here. And the reason for that is that I can actually rotate these and tuck them up against the wall. If we have like another bigger project, say we're working on another car, we could actually kind of go 2 cars deep in here. It's just going to give me a little bit more flexibility on the space. It also is going to give me the most amount of room for me to wheel bikes past my car, turn right and go right onto the ramp. Where they are now, they're a little bit further out, and I kind of had to do some 3-point turns and stuff to try and get bikes by my car. So I think this work pattern will work a little bit better. I'm going to have the vapor blaster and stuff over here where the lathe was. So I need to kind of modify my air lines, and we're going to need to make some other modifications for that. But what I'm going to work on now is probably cleaning up that area, moving the sandblaster and vapor blaster over there, so we can start to make some room to rotate this toolbox to the other side. Big progress being made. I obviously have the workbench moved over to this side of the shop. I'm probably going to take this opportunity to remake this workbench. This one's okay, but again, like I mentioned earlier in the video, horizontal surfaces just get filled up with stuff. So these bottom shelves always just end up being super cluttered, and it's just not a great storage solution. So what I'm going to do is take this opportunity to actually get another toolbox. I want to get a 72-inch toolbox to add, and I'll have enough room if I remake this workbench to have those toolboxes and a 72-inch toolbox all built in under the countertop. So that's going to be the goal. So that'll probably be a separate video, maybe next week or something like that. So this is just kind of shoved over here temporarily. The next big project I need to do is my flooring. So I don't know if I've showed you that yet. Let me show you. So this is the flooring I'm going to be going with in the back half of the shop. This is from a company called Race Deck, and it's just going to be a kind of black and white checkered board pattern. I have roughly 360 or 380 square feet. I was actually able to buy this used for super cheap off of Facebook Marketplace. It's in really good shape, but it's desperately in need of a full degrease, pressure wash clean. So that'll be an upcoming project. But it's gonna go all in this back half of the shop, pretty much from this line back. I'm hoping I'll have enough flooring if I don't put it under the lathe, the mill, the do-all, or the workbench. I'm pretty sure I'll be able to cover the rest of it and get us past these really rough epoxy floors. These are only 2 years old, and they have not lasted well at all. When I build the big shop, we're gonna have to figure out something either more like a polished concrete so we don't have anything to flake off, or something that's more industrial, a little bit higher end. This is just the stuff you buy from Home Depot or Lowe's, and it's obviously not up to the task with how I work. So I'm looking forward to getting that new heavy duty flooring back here. With the lifts in place, we can kind of see how everything is going to flow. This toolbox will be set back quite a bit, so there'll be a ton of room right here in the center. to be able to walk through and move bikes back and forth and bring material back there, and it should flow a lot better. I like the lifts in this position as well too, not only for the ease of kind of loading and unloading, but also it gives me a good angle for me to be able to step back and kind of look at a bike from its side view, which while you're designing a bike, you're trying to get the proportions and everything right, is super important. So this allows the bikes to be probably 3 or 4 feet further away from me, which gives me a nice distance to look at the bikes from the side. I mentioned earlier I can just swivel these and they'll actually both fit kind of right against the wall right there. That's why I didn't want to put any kind of workbench or any tools or anything on that wall. And that gives us full access to be able to pull in like a second car and go kind of a tandem 2-car garage here, which is going to be great. So you'll have to excuse how I look. It is steamy here in Texas. So I'm going to call it there for kind of part 1 of the shop redo project. And the next video is probably going to be flooring and then starting to kind of finalize the position of a lot of stuff. I want to see if they have that toolbox I want in stock as well. So we might be able to knock that in the next video too. But you guys will see that in a couple of days. I appreciate you guys watching as always. Thanks for subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next one.